Thank you guys for coming this morning. Or yeah, it's not really morning any longer, but anyway, it's still kind of one of the early sessions at least. Cool that so many people like to join. We're going to focus this session on well, the Hitchhiker's Guide to Navigating Power BI. And basically what we're going to do is that we're going to try to develop a little bit, if any of you were on the session that we did on Wednesday, where we focused on building a better report so you don't have to export to Excel to get better insight. We do have a seat here in the front if you like to sit. There is an extra seat there. So we're going to start the session by doing a survivor style. So we're going to figure out who of these people are not going to, no, all kidding. So we're going to try to do something where we can create better navigation, both within the reports and also in Power BI in general, in how to publish the reports. And?
So, yeah, my name is Just Blendijk. I'm principal architect at the 2-day capacity based in Denmark. Is my mic on? No?
I can do this.
Now I'm on.
All right, so
perfect.
I won't then. Okay.
Yeah, my name is Just Blendijk. I'm from Denmark at a company called 2-day capacity, where I'm a principal architect, and then I'm a data platform MVP, and then I'm also a big fan of sharing knowledge, like I'm doing here at a presentation, but also I'm hosting some user groups in Denmark and also some conferences, and you are all hereby invited to join one of the conferences for either Power BI Next Step, Data Platform Next Step, or the Power BI Cruise. You can go in and find more information on that.
And I am Christopher West. I'm also based with the same consultancy in Copenhagen, or yeah, I'm based in Copenhagen, Denmark, but yeah, in Denmark, we're called 2-day capacity. I'm the head of the academy there, so what I do basically is a lot of training sessions. I also have a brand new title, which is Senior Data Insight Consultant. I used to be Senior Advisor in Data Storytelling, but that was apparently not good enough. I'm a big data nerd and a UI UX designer. I spend a lot of my consulting business doing templates and things like that. And then this is one of my key things, creating Power BI reports that feel much more like an application than a classic report. Trying to reach corners of businesses where data-driven decisions aren't something that we do every single day. So before we start?
Before we start, we created this session because we think the navigation experience in Power BI is not the best. We can, I think, agree on that. So, so we will try to show you, what can we actually do to make it better to users, so that they can find the content they need, and also both in the portal, but also inside the reports, and make it easier for the end users to actually get the insights that they are searching for.
And there's a bit of a hidden gem in here. It was actually, I kept it on there. It was something that Just put on there. Don't panic, you know, that thing where you emphasize that people shouldn't, and then you put a lot of explanation points behind it. So this is going to be another thing in the Power BI reports. We want to make that very explicit, that how people should behave and do different things and do throughout these demos. So basically what we're going to do is that we're going to go through Power BI report navigation in the Power BI reports themselves, between Power BI reports in the Power BI app and not in the workspace. We'll get to that. And then
I will take the last part where we will try and see what we can do to have people find the reports easier. And I'm honestly, I'm not a big fan of the Power BI web portal. I think it's really, not the best to actually navigate. So what can we actually do to make it easier for people to find what they're looking for?
It is actually kind of funny that they consolidated Fabric in a portal that is not great. But anyway, what we're going to dive into first here, so it's not going to be a whole lot of slides, it will be a whole lot of demos. I have found a couple of reports that I've used for other demo purposes. For example, I have this. There we go. which is used to create like a kind of a picture that is a before and after kind of report. So, this could be something that could be published into a workspace, right? Or a Power BI report. It has the logo, has a bunch of information in here. It even has a couple of slicers up here that you can use to navigate this. So we took this and said, okay, so what if you wanted to create something that looked a little better, maybe? So we went all overboard and created this, right? A GIF in the background, and everything is good, right? It might not be the best example of a good-looking report in the world, but it is a report in the world, nevertheless. We've used a couple of features here. We have one single page, and then we are using a text box over here on the right that actually has a few information. I can see that some of that logic has been broken since I opened it last. But anyway, you can click here. You can click on an individual month, and then this text box should actually update with new information about the revenue of different products, and you can actually see here that it actually changes what is the top product and things like that. So you might get to a point where this is, it may be a little much, so you could replace it with just a plain picture background. This was cropped to fit into a web page at a certain point. But what if we went and did something else? So did something like this as a front page. Again, it was actually iframed into a web page, and that's why it's a little, it doesn't use the full canvas, but it is as an example here. So what I wanted on this report here was I wanted something so that when you go into the report, you can see the regional managers, and then I wanted people to be able to, whenever they look at a regional manager here, I wanted to be able to switch. So instead of using these small drill action icons, I'm never a big fan of these small icons here because I find that most users do not find them. It's not super intuitive to find things like that. Navigating your hierarchies, there we go, using those small icons. And what's the difference of this and this? I can explain this over and over and over again, and people will never understand. So instead, how about adding a button like this, right? So it's a kind of a toggle button, and you can see here that it goes from a single person to like a hierarchy, right? So this button is actually just a button that uses an icon. So the icon is the learner PNG, that's that guy there. And then whenever you hover over this, so instead of the default, whenever you hover over it, it goes to a manager PNG. So when I hover, it actually shows a different icon. And you can then see here that I switch the horizontal alignment from right to left. So it feels like it's a toggle, right? And then it even, yeah, there's a question. Oh, yeah. I can. Here, whenever you hover over it, it does this. I should say, whenever there's credit due, this is stolen right off a demo that Reed Havens did a while ago, actually. But this is how you would create a toggle like this. And basically what this has then is that it has an action here that then creates a bookmark that is another bookmark. So whenever I click this, it actually opens up and goes to the country manager level, which is nice, right? If I click it again, this is actually a new button now. So this is now visible, so when I click this button, it navigates back to that other bookmark. And the great thing is, you might have users that then want to know a little bit more about the account managers that are in those country manager groupings here. And instead of having to go through that whole hierarchy where you do that, actually when you go to that third level of this journey, you might want to see different things. So what we have here in the bottom right-hand corner is that you'll see that if I hover over this, and I'll zoom again so that you can see it. So when I hover over this, this is yet another button. So this uses a drill-through action to actually create a navigation to another page. So you'll see here that it actually comes up with a tooltip that says click on a country manager. Okay, let's try to do that. So I'll click on a country manager, and then again, I'm trying to make it super intuitive so that the icon actually changes from a question mark to a magnifying glass, so that when I now click this, I now get sent to, should get sent to, oh, there we go. I get sent to yet another page where I'm still using that same hierarchy, but I'm showing data in a slightly different way, so now I can only see account managers, and I've even used a dynamic header here so that it picks up what account or what country manager this is actually from, and then it shows that information on that next page, right? So you can do different things like this. I have another great business report here that is from the, so we needed to, this is a very, very business thing that we did. We had one guy that he left the company, and he was on our company go-kart team. So we had tryouts. So we went to the go-kart track, and then we did tryouts. So we had 3 KPIs. Amount of points, you want to get the least amount of points, then you've won the most times. We have best track time here, and then we have overtakes. Obviously, you don't want minus 150 because then you were last. This report here, actually what you will see here is that then I created 3 different pages, one that sorts by number of overtakes, one that sorts by time, and one that sorts by best points, right? So then I have these buttons up here, and you will see that I've added a little bit of hover effect to these so I can see that when I hover, it does something. So when I click these buttons, they are actually page navigators. So when I click a button here, it would seem that the visual itself actually changes the sorting, but what you actually do is that you navigate to another page where that sorting is what you see, right? So trying to make it super intuitive and easy to actually do these kind of things. I know that it's not maybe the best report in the world, and it's, again, I'm using a GIF as a background, sorry. These reports here, creating things like this where you want to navigate between pages. Having these tabs here at the bottom, if you have multiple pages in reports, might not be the best solution in the world, right? So what if we wanted to do something better? Well, they did add something into Power BI a while ago now where you can go into insert. So the way that we've been doing these navigations since forever is using buttons, right? And I don't know if you know, hopefully you do, but in the buttons section now, there is a navigator section. You can set this to either bookmarks or page navigators. And the standard page navigator looks like this. It's not the most pretty thing in the world out of the box, and I didn't change this in the theme deliberately so that you can see what it looks like. So you will see that what this actually does is that it picks up automatically on all the pages in the report. So all the pages, except for the ones that, actually I'm pretty sure that it does this automatically. So if I hold down here in the desktop, if I hold down the control, it sends me to that page. The problem is, I then get sent to a page that does not have this. I deliberately did this because here, I've used separate buttons with icons on there. So if I click on the home icon, obviously that points to somewhere that is no longer there. So the page navigation, how you set this up is I'm going to point this to the after page here. So when I click on the home icon, it should take me back. So there we go. So either you use very specific icons, because one of the problems with the standard page navigator is the fact that it uses the name of the pages, which is at first very nice, and then you could run into problems because if you're using very deliberate, like sales, and then do a lot of things with either pipes or something in your names, it could become very long, right? And maybe you want to use those icons, and then the only thing is really going back to creating individual buttons that point to individual pages. And I still do that quite a lot because it gives it just gives a little bit of a nicer feel. I think. And I work with some of the clients that I work with, we spend a little bit of time actually creating icon packages. It doesn't have to be super hard. You can create it from within PowerPoint. You create a few things. You can actually group things, create things like if you use the balloon from the whole SQL bits thing and then create a circle around it so that it becomes something that you can use. It just gives, it can sort of spruce up the reports just a little bit and make it seem a little more nice. Again, if I go back to that analyze page here, having icons like this that are not just the standard icons out of Power BI, so that it feels just a little more, I would say, exclusive, but it's probably not the best word. But having things like this could really improve readability. And I see that when we look at usage consumption, the reports where we spend that little bit of extra time actually perfecting this, they get used a whole lot more. And we also see that a lot more users actually reach those drill-through pages. They even reach other pages. So if we start to track that, we can probably help them. And what I'm really trying to achieve is to build something where I don't need to spend a whole lot of time explaining to people, okay, so you hover, and then you wait for a second, and then in the tooltip, there's going to be an arrow where you can then, it'll never work, right? It probably will for some of the people in finance, because they are super tech savvy and used to Excel anyway, where everything is hard. So probably for them it'll work, but for most business users, it won't. And most business users, they spend, I don't want to single people out, but they spend 30 minutes logging into their computer every morning because it's hard. They have 500 different passwords. They just want something that is easy, right? And speaking about easy, going to Power BI, I've published all these reports. I have the Go-Kart report. I have a bunch of models here. I have Go-Kart PBIX and sales overview and different things. So if I tell people, okay, I'm just going to invite you to the workspace, just go and find the reports. What reports? So you have 500 different elements, and what are the different things? So next week, probably next week, probably Wednesday, wasn't that what Mo said a couple of times on the session yesterday? There's probably going to be a folder structure that you can use within your workspaces, but for right now, this is what you get, right? I have multiple different versions of the same report. They're all in the same workspace. How are we ever going to figure out which one those end users should actually use, right? I always emphasize that when you publish things in Power BI, publish it into a workspace, but when you publish for the end users, for report readers that are never going to edit, they're just going to read, always, always publish an app on top of that workspace. So I've cheated a little bit, wiser from my previous session. I don't want to rely too much on the internet connection. So I've created an app here. It's called SQL Bits. This is an app. I've uploaded a nice little logo that's going to be in the presentation later as well. So you have the possibilities here. How many people have published an app before? Pretty much everybody, good. There is here at the bottom, there's an advanced section, and I'm going to keep the navigation pane on by default here for this one.
Zoom in.
Here, I'm going to, keep the, there's a navigation pane. I'll show you what that is in a second. I'll keep that on by default here. I'm not going to allow readers access to hidden content, and I've deliberately have these two off as well, that it's not going to install automatically, and you'll see why that is. Then there's a content section here. You can add content to this, so individual reports from your workspace. You can see here if I add content, I have this selected, but I could add multiple reports here as well. And I'm going to cancel this. The great thing is actually that here you can also add content. Oops, not here. That's just a standard one. You can also add links to external sources. I've added here a link to our Academy site. And the cool thing is, and I'm not quite sure if this is a new feature, but when I added this in here earlier on, there's a cool thing where here you can say open in, whether or not it should open in a new tab or in the current tab. I'm pretty sure that hasn't been an option earlier, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I've opted in here that it should open in a new tab, so when you click it, it does. I'll cancel this because I haven't changed anything. And then, as the newest thing, you can add audiences in here as well. Because one of the things that has been a problem with these workspaces whenever you published apps was it was one app per workspace, and that's still the case. But right now, what if I had, I might want something, so I've created a couple of sections here as well. So I have the Go-Kart, the other section with the Go-Kart report. For most of the business users in A beer here, they're probably not going to want to see that. So I'll add a new audience here. And you will see that in this new audience here, I'll call this sales. I'll try at least to call this sales. There we go. So in the sales audience here, I actually don't want them to see this other part here. And maybe I could add a new audience here. Let's call them the Go-Kart audience here. And the Go-Kart audience, they should not be able to see the sales reports. So same app, two different audiences, or actually three, because there's a SQL Bits audience as well that has the Power BI users here. And you can see here, then I can go into these and I can add individual users or groups. So let's add the Power Apps user here. He's going to be the sales guy. And then when I update this app, it's then going to update, and I'm pretty sure this is a survey whether or not I like Power BI, so I'm just going to close that down. So here we go. So I did this yesterday as well. I can't quite figure it out. Anyway, what I've done now is that I've taken all those reports. Since I am an admin in the workspace, I will always see all content. So I'm going to go to the apps section here. Eustace is going to come back to the whole portal here. And I really should see in this list, I should see that app that I just published, right? But I don't. I don't have a SQL Bits app. This is still one of the things where this is a little tedious to work with, and we're going to get back to this and how we can share it and all that, because if I did not set it to automatically publish, this is what people will see. I could have copied the URL. I'll still have to send that in an email to everybody saying, hey, I've published an app. Go and have a look. What is an app? Well, it's actually a Power BI report in a read-only. I'm still not a big fan of the whole app and workspace kind of thing, but that is what they went with. The content pack was still better. Anyway, what you can do then is that you can go to the Get Apps, and then you will find your apps, right? Here we go, and thankfully it pops up here in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to get that now. And this is still one of the things. So if I go back here to my apps section, you will see that now it's in the list, right? And this is one of the things where I feel that most end users actually get confused. Because if they go in here, let's just say that you have 10 or 20 different apps, you need to scroll to see everything. You can actually go here to the view instead of seeing them as lists, because right now in the list view, you only see the icon for an app. And since they're all apps, they all have the same icon. It used to be that the icon that you had chosen for the app would come up in that list as well. I don't know why they removed that, but they did. You can switch this to a gallery view, and then you will see that then you actually see the icons for those apps. So that's kind of cool, right? But what if people don't see it initially? They're going to go to the Get Apps, then they're going to go into Organizational Apps, and there are no apps in here, but I could have sworn there was a SQL Bits app, right? So I'll search for that. So I can't search, really? Anyway, so since there's nothing there, you can't search. But anyway, so if it is already in the list of apps that you own or have attached yourself to, you won't find it in the search. And I still find that odd that you don't just get it, like if you search the App Store on any like smartphone or anything else like that. If you search for an app, you already have it. It's just going to say open. But if you then click the app, for some reason it also opens the icon in full screen. You will, yeah. Anyway, I now have, so I've created these two sections here, and as I said, since I'm part of the audience of the admin, I can see everything here, right? So I have the sales report. This is another report where I'm using a different kind of navigation. That's lovely. Also, I have some buttons in here for those of you who were on the session where we did, different things where we can then interact with the report. I can now change the target value. Now everything is in the blues. This is awesome. I also have the sales overview here, and you will see that when I open up that sales overview, all the pages that I have in that sales overview that were visible will now also show up as these tabs, right? And this could have its merit. I'm not 100% sure that I'd like this. For most web pages, if this was the navigation, you would probably shop elsewhere, right? So think about that when you're building your reports. Make it feel like a proper web page, something that you would use yourself, something that you find intuitive. And remember, if people don't find it intuitive, you don't need to explain it to them. You need to change it. Because if they don't find it intuitive at first, they never will. And then you'll have to explain it to 100 different people. So try to engage with the users to actually navigate around there. So I've used buttons, I've used the page navigator, also bookmarks, and the drill-through functionality to create something that was a better report. So I would say that the reports are made better and easier to navigate. The easier they are to navigate, the better insights people get, and the more used your reports will be as well. It could take a little bit of extra time to implement, but I think that it's well worth the extra time spent in the reports.
Yeah, you should say you spend a little more extra time, but your end users is spending much less time to find it. So it's a good
And it's
thing.
always that thing where the more people that read the reports, the more important it is that you as a developer spend more time. Because if you waste 5 seconds a day for 150 users, that will amount to pretty much your year's work in a very short amount of time, right? So, also, how we navigate between reports in the apps. So we've seen this, that we can add these tabs here. You can actually also, if you go here, if you go to a very specific page, this page will have a unique URL. So if you want to, you can copy that URL, you can paste it back to your, let's try and do this. So let's find this page, the simple analyze, that's well spoken. Here we go, so I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna go to the after page here, and I'm gonna add in a button. It's not in file, sorry, it's in the insert. I'll add in just a standard button here. Let's do a blank button. And I'll place it down here towards the bottom because then everybody will find it, right? So this button here is gonna have an action. That action is just a link. Web URL, there we go. And I've pasted in that URL, right? So save that. So when I click this button now, what happens is right from the Power BI desktop, I then open up, I get sent to that page, it verifies me as a user and everything. It opens up in a new tab. This is exactly the same thing that would happen in the report. I'm not going to go through the whole thing of publishing it so that you can see that it does the same thing in the report. But what would happen is this will always open up in a new tab. And this can be both a blessing and a curse, because if you do this navigation with all your pages, every time that you go to a new page, it's going to open up in a new tab. But it can also be a very good thing, because if you, instead of doing this whole navigation pane here in the side, what if we instead created one page where we can then navigate to the other pages? That page will stay open, and then as soon as you click on one of those buttons and navigate to that other report, it opens up in a new page. So that way we can, again, we can use a Power BI report as a portal to other report pages, right? And I have different clients where we've built self-service portals where it's one big self-service portal where you go, you can search information, there are articles there, there's links to their YouTube channel where they have different tips and tricks, but it's also a portal to the existing reports. So you go there, you use a Power BI report with buttons that point to URLs to different reports. This is a little harder to maintain, because if you update your apps, if you change things, the URLs might change, and then that'll break the whole logic. But again, it's all worth considering. How much are we investing in this particular report? How much are we willing to go down that road? How finished is the product right now? Do we need to add things like this? Do people actually find what they're looking for? Or, do we need to make it a little more easy for them to actually navigate, right?
Yeah, and it also opens up the possibility not only navigating inside the same app, but actually navigating to other apps, so between apps also.
Yes. There is also the possibility of using dashboards, so the standard functionality in Power BI. I'm going to spare you the experience of creating a dashboard because it is a possibility. Whether or not it's a good possibility, I'm going to leave up to you guys. I personally, I'm not a huge fan of the dashboard functionality in Power BI. First of all, it's another naming thing that I've never really understood the logic, because essentially what we build in the Power BI desktop is a dashboard, and then we have a dashboard on top of a report that is really well, anyway. Don't get me started, and I did it myself. Anyway, so that's the dashboard functionality, right? There is also another feature in Power BI. So in the workspace itself, let's go back to that. In the workspace and then SQL bits, you will see that here in the workspace, I have something called an untitled scorecard, which is another funny thing because that's actually a metric. Anyway, the untitled scorecard here is another way of actually producing these reports. So a scorecard, if you don't know, it gives me a possibility here to create new... For some reason, it's read-only, but it gives me a possibility to actually track my, my KPIs. So this is an example. We've actually linked this to a, so in the report, we have linked to one of the cards that are in there that displays how much revenue is actually there for a beer here. And we can add comments to this, so we can go in and we can do check-ins and we can monitor the progress of this. Hasn't really moved since Wednesday, the great thing is about these metrics is that we can use these at stand-up meetings, for example, and if I go in here, shouldn't I be able to, oh yeah, there we go. I'm gonna open the report that this is connected to. So I can create these metrics based on all the reports in my workspace, and I can connect to different visuals in those reports, and they will be updated, and you will see that when I, oh yeah, okay, that's not great. You'll have to take my word for it, but when you look at the screen here, you will see that it's actually not just that visual, but it's actually showing up as a, what's it called?
Spotlight.
Spotlight, yes. And so whenever I click on something else, I just land on that page where that came from. Again, if the scorecards or the metrics thing within Power BI is something that you use often, this could be another way of doing this. And this could be a great way if you do presentations. If you, as I said, if you do those stand-up meetings where you go in and maybe you have multiples. So I'll go into the scorecard here. Maybe you have multiple different metrics. There are different people that need to stand up and say, hey, yeah, we're actually doing pretty good on this. I'm going to add a comment. Maybe I'm going to add this so that it actually from here you can also add tasks or add alerts and things like that. So we just use this, and then if people start to ask questions going, yeah, the 3 billion, is that still 2.7, or has it actually reached 2.9? Well, let's go ahead and have a look, right? So right from here as a presentation tool, I'm making it super easy to use this, only the subset that I need, and then navigate from there. You could potentially also put this into a PowerPoint presentation. Don't ever, so now that the feature is live, that you can pin visuals. So if you go to any report in the workspace, sadly, let's not do the go-kart report. So the sales overview here, please load. So on any one of those visuals, you can actually pin these visuals now, or you can go to them and why? Oh, why? Anyway, there's supposed to be a pin, or where you can actually copy the URL for that particular item or the whole report. And you can embed that into your PowerPoints so that it becomes interactive. You can still skip all the pages, you can still do different things, but you can point to a specific page so that when you navigate within PowerPoint, it is the actual report. So if people start asking questions, it's not just a snippet where you then have to go out of the PowerPoint presentation to go into the report and then do different things. It's actually right there in the report, so you can start clicking around. There are still a few things in that where it kind of locks into the Power BI presentation. It becomes hard to navigate between pages, but they are looking into that. There was a question?
Yes, I've tested that functionality, and in my experience, it was at least half a year ago unstable. Have you had some better experience with that?
Yeah, so the question was, thank you, the question was, at least a while ago, this functionality wasn't great and it was a little unstable. I do feel that it has become a lot better. It is still a preview feature, but it does work really well. I have actually tried to encourage this for multiple different clients, and they seem to be enjoying it. I haven't heard a lot of things coming back, so I'm hoping that that is a good thing. It usually is, because people usually let me know if I'm giving them bad advice. Yeah. There's another question at the back. Yeah, so the question is the scorecard's metrics visual there, whether or not it remembers slicer values. So it will, at the time when you click it and you connect it, sadly it doesn't work right now, but at the time when you connect it, it will remember whatever you had there. You do also have the possibility of changing it so that it just takes the raw values, but usually what you want is you have a visual that is, you know, today's date or something like that. It is filtered by that, and then you bring that into the metrics. It's actually quite a good tool. It's not being used a lot, but it's pretty simple to set up. You just have to get used to, you know, working with that tool instead of something else. And I kind of like it. It hasn't gotten the I don't think it has the traction right now that it really deserves. I've tried to implement it with a few different clients, but it hasn't really brought on for some reason. Yeah, I'm trying to use it myself for my team, and when I say that I'm trying to use it, you know what that means, right? So we've set it up, and we don't use it as much as we should.
So yeah, for the last part.
Yes, you can. So depending on, yes, you could potentially do that. You can't make it point to the bookmark, but if you go to the page and you set it like that, then that will be how the page is being shown. Yes, it can be one of those things where it could probably take a few tries. So the question was, can you make the whole URL thing point to a specific bookmark? And technically, you cannot make it point to the bookmark, but you can make it point to the page, and that page can be saved the way that that bookmark will, set it up. Right?
Actually, if you create your own bookmark, then you can save that or share that to Teams, and then you can find that URL and then put that in. So yeah, a workaround. Okay, yeah, for the last part of this session, we will go in and have a look at how, now we looked at how we can navigate inside the apps and inside the reports, but how is actually the portal. And Christopher also showed this about using the app gallery, and that is a rule that you should always put your content in apps. Oh, and we have a question on the screen.
Sorry, they're 20 seconds behind, so sometimes it takes a while. Can you set the time frame to monitor the progress in the scorecards?
So can you set the time frame to monitor the question in scorecards? Yes, you can. So basically, in the scorecard, so if I go back to the metrics here, and in here, so we can, this is now behind, I'm going to move over here. So if I go in and I change this, so you'll see here that you can set time period, you can make this update however many times you want. You can also see the history. As you can see here, it hasn't changed since March 20th when we set this up. But you can basically set this up so that it looks at a very specific card, and if that card is being filtered by, dynamic date filtering, it will automatically update for the day that you're looking at. I'm hoping that that is going to be enough. Otherwise, hit us back with a question. Yeah.
Yeah, so for the apps, that's a crucial feature to use, and as Christopher also showed, we can set the logo, we can also set something in about the support side, the contact information, and that's pretty important. And then Christopher also showed how we could actually go in and find the apps, and that can't be, sometimes it's not that easy. So I will show you one thing here.
The one, yeah.
Go for my laptop.
Do you want to be on the right?
No, that's fine. So in here, when I go in for my apps, and sorry, we are not using the same tenant, so it's some different apps here. There can be lots of apps in here. If you are going into a larger company that's doing a lot of self-service, this could be hundreds, thousands of apps if you let your users create them. So that can be pretty hard to find. You can, of course, search up here, but one thing you also can is that if there are some apps that is really, really important for people, you can go in, and let's say that is the one. Then I can go in and favorite for myself, and then it will show up in a proper place. But I can also, if I created this app, and that I can go out here and set them settings. So that was not what I wanted. Sorry. Edit it. edit settings. Yeah. So yes.
Yet another thing that they could probably do better in the portal.
That was not what I wanted to show you. Sorry. I'm always finding it hard to find out where I actually set the featuring of these things. App settings, yeah, perfect. There it is. So in here, find the settings, and then find the little small details, and then the app settings. So in here, if I am the one delivering this, and also have the right tenant permissions to actually go in. Not every user can do this. You actually have to have some tenant settings set up so you can go in and promote or certify your specific app. You can also do the same on specific content. But this is a good way of actually showing what is the most important apps out there, and then when they go into the app portal, they will see them in the top and be more easy findable. And you can also use this feature to set it a feature on home, and that's a little funny thing. Everybody can do this feature at home. That's not something that you had limited in the tenant settings. So yeah, I will of course feature this on home and then go to the home screen. And this is something that I struggle a lot with. I come from a background where we make Power BI portals, so making some enterprise portals, making it easy for people to find the content. I would love that we could go in as an organization for the enterprise reports. I am aware there's a lot of self-service, and that's also fine, but this is pretty much made for self-service. And yeah, honestly, Power BI was made for self-service, but we also wanted to use it for enterprise reporting. And when people come in here, it's just, yeah, see something that is not relevant for them most often. So being able to actually go in and customize and make audiences on this home screen, that's something I will love to get, but we don't have that. But we can feature things, we can promote things, and we can also tell people that instead of coming in here, then they can go for the expanded view, and then they will see the favorites and also the featured ones in here. But still, then you need to actually tell the people that they should go to this view to see the featured content. So not the best experience, but that is what we can do with the limitations we have in the portal. Here we can feature stuff and we can promote stuff for them to find them, and that's most often things you will do with the apps because you wanted to have the users using the apps in here. And also,
one thing that I should also say is that there are third-party tools out there for this specific thing. Because the initial thing, so you can make your apps very, very intuitive to navigate. You can have that whole navigation pane. But if people don't find it initially, and I still think that most business users find this super confusing, having all of that even on this horrible, horrible screen. It does actually have a great background, so these are tiles and things like that. But you can't see that due to something. But this is actually, that's an issue, right? So if people always struggle to find stuff, do it in a different way. And I mean,
exactly.
You're going to get to that.
And one thing you can is trying to let people use the search function and find things that way. That is one thing, but then they will also find the reports that is shared through a workspace, and not, you can't limit it only to find content in apps, and you can't filter this, but then you can go in and use this new One Lake Data Hub feature, and then try and teach people to use that to find the content there. You have some more options to filter out here, but why I don't see my apps in here? I wanted to only see the apps. You can do that. You can filter down here on a specific workspaces. So for instance, I have something around finance maybe, but it won't show up. Then if I had been using favorites, I will maybe see things. Actually, what I've done here is that I'm using the new domains feature where you can also try to organize stuff with domains in here. So saying all domains, but it requires a lot of training to actually learn people and end users, and specifically business users, to use these search functionalities. These are more for self-service users, not for the enterprise. The one user is coming in and seeing something once a month or twice a week or something like that. It's just too advanced. So what we can do is using external tools. And one thing is, yeah, if you already have an intranet, and if you're using Microsoft stuff, you will use intranet as part of the SharePoint experience. Then you can have the portal you can here go in. This is where they find all the other informations, and here you can make make it easier for them to actually find stuff. One thing is, I just created a tile here, and that tile here is then linking directly into an app where they find this. So you can make different tiles to different apps. You can even put icons in here and make it easy for them. So having them come in to the SharePoint site or another portal and then find the content they want in there. You can also go a step further and not have them leave the SharePoint site or the portal and then actually embed the content in here. This is not the most beautiful reports, I can be honest with you. Just to show you, you can have multiple reports on them. You can also have just a specific visual from a report, so you can actually customize this very, very good and make that portal feeling for them instead of that ugly experience they will get in the official portals. Then you can make your own portals. But again, like the navigation that Christopher showed, it requires some more work, but you can also then help your users even more with these things. So this is one of the ways you can do it in SharePoint or in other portal solutions. And the last one we want to show you
I'm
is
smiling because you're very true to the theme of creating a finance report with that one, yeah.
So the last thing is, if your users is using Teams a lot, then you can also put the content inside Teams instead of and then this would be the portal. What I have done, I have a team called Retail Stores, and then I have a specific a team in here, channel. We call it reporting, and up here we can then actually quite easily embed the report directly into the channels where they find the stuff and where they discuss the stuff. So taking the reporting out to where the people are using things instead of trying to have them navigating inside the portal. That is something I have great success with, both with Teams and also with SharePoint.
Can I ask a question?
Hmm?
So in the room here, how many of you actually in the companies where you are use Teams as like a kind of a an intranet, if you like? Like how many? A lot actually. How many of you have Slack instead? None. All right. Cool. One. Okay. Cool. Lucky guy. I wanted to ask the question because I feel that Microsoft are trying to push that Teams is this new intranet kind of thing where you do all your communications and no one is ever writing any emails any longer. I feel that hasn't quite happened for me. But the integration into Teams and the channels there is kind of great if you use it. Yeah.
And then you can go the last step in Teams and also have, and this is one thing that's even more confusion here, it calls an app, but it's not a Power BI app, it's a Teams app, and you can embed an Power BI app as yet. This is
you can embed your Power BI app in the Teams app in the Teams for Power BI, yes. Yeah.
So this is a simplified way of seeing the Power BI portal just inside. So it's actually, I think it's actually quite nice because we are more focused in here on the consumer side and not so much on the creator side, because that's the trouble with the Power BI portal, that it's trying to fit everyone, every personas, where here we are more focusing on the consumers, the report users here. So I can recommend using that one.
The only huge trouble with this, and it's the same thing with all teams, is that if you add this in here as a separate view with your Power BI, if you switch to another tab, then it goes back, and then when you go back to Power BI, it's then reset. So I have a tendency to still use the web experience, but it is actually quite nice that it's there, right within Teams.
Yeah, exactly. So, rounding off, we are at 1 minute before end. Any questions so far? And also, before questions, please go in and rate the sessions. You will also get an email if you are scanned outside the door. It will really, really help us to deliver better sessions other times, but you will also be part of a raffle to win something. So,
question in the back? So the question is, can you create reports that are user-centric, so based off something where, so we were out of time, but I'll just give that last answer here. So basically, you can create from row-level security, you can create custom reports so that when it opens up, it shows a very specific thing. I don't know if that is the question. It does take a little bit of fiddling around with to make it actually work, but you can do that. You can't change the whole layout of the page, but you can show like a certain aspect of a hierarchy, for example, based on where that user is located. But you can't change the whole layout of the page, so making it navigate to different sections. You'll need something third-party for that.
Yeah, and we are on time. If there's any more questions, please come up here or find us throughout the day or tomorrow, and have a great rest of the day and conference.
Thank you guys so much for coming.